Hi, good evening. I do have Dr. Dan Kessler with me today to talk about a little tennis, the US Open, which is the final Grand Slam event of the year. Dan, say hello.
Hello, Sri. How are you?
Good, 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 good. I think before we get into tennis, let's do a quick shout out to Victor Hovland, who pocketed a cool $18 million for winning the Tour Championship. So I know both of us were watching a little bit in the end, but I didn't get to catch the whole day. But I think let's do a quick shout out to Victor, and then Xander did his best, but I think it was all Victor all the way.
Yeah, and I agree. It's a little disappointing for Scotty Scheffler there. 2 years in a row, he had the FedEx points lead, or for he had the 10 stroke. He started at -10 to start the tournament. But it just both years just came up a little bit short. Last year he came up in the final day short. This year he just was just didn't quite get it going from the beginning. Just his putter let him down, and that's been his problem. But yeah, like you said, Hovland earned it. Played great the last two tournaments, and all he needs now is to get a major under his belt, and then he'll be up there with with the Roms and the McElroys and all those guys.
Yep, right. I mean, he's only 25, as Jim Nance was mentioning, so I think he's got a good future ahead of him. All right, so we're here, one day away from the U.S. Open. We're still catching up on that amazing match we witnessed between Alcaraz and Djokovic, which we did the podcast, and we definitely want our listeners to listen to it. So we're still a week removed from that. So. So here we are again. Alcaraz is one, Djokovic is two, and again they're set up for the collision course. But I'm sure there's a lot of other players out there who probably want to kind of spoil that matchup. So Dan, let's do a quick update on who you think are your favorites
Mm-hmm.
in the men's draw this year.
Yeah, so I just took a quick look as I knew we were going to be doing this podcast later tonight. I printed out the brackets, did my homework, just kind of started with the third round and then just kind of quickly filled it out through the quarters and through the semis. So I'll just kind of go ahead to my projections for the quarterfinals. We'll just kind of start at those. So up in the top half, in the Alcaraz half, we'll call it, I've got Alcaraz and Sinner in the quarterfinal in a rematch of, it's funny, we were just talking 5 minutes ago before going live here about how Tennis Channel is airing that match from last year right now at the US Open, the encore version of it, where Alcaraz prevailed in 5 sets at about 2:30 in the morning, I believe. It was a marathon match. Save some match points. So we'll have I think a rematch of Alcaraz Sinner in the quarterfinal. On the lower half of the Alcaraz draw, I've got Medvedev and Karen Khachanov, who has been absent for the last, I think, two majors, I believe. Actually, he got to the Australian, I think, quarters. I'm pretty sure he had injury at the French and definitely Wimbledon. So he's back, and if he's healthy, I see him, getting back to the quarterfinal with a win in the fourth round over Rublev. So I see Medvedev, Khachanov in that quarter. And then looking at we'll call it the Djokovic side of the draw, at those quarters, in the upper half of the Djokovic draw, I have Tiafoe going back to. It's a little bit of an upset, nothing crazy. He's a 10 seed, it looks like. So I have him making a little noise, and the highest seed in that quarter would have been Ruud, but I have Ruud going down in the second round to the American Wolf. So I've got Tiafoe and Rune, the Danish young kid. So Tiafoe and Rune in that quarter, and then in the lower half of the Djokovic draw, I've got Djokovic against. It was tough to decide. I had Fritz versus Eubanks in the previous round. I took Fritz slightly, although Eubanks has been great since Wimbledon. So I've got Djokovic against Fritz in that quarterfinal. So that's kind of how I have it. Alcaraz Sinner, Medvedev Khachanov, Tiafoe Rune, and Fritz Djokovic. I don't know if you have the draws in front of you, if you want to kind of do your quarterfinal quick projections, then we can go forward and see how we see it going out.
Yeah, I feel that, Djokovic definitely, but there are a couple of things that I know. One name that you didn't mention, even though he is a little not playing his best, the Canadian Auger Aliasime. I mean,
Oh,
he
yeah.
could set up a very good collision course with Djokovic. I do like Fritz. He's been playing well, although he didn't really impress me. Eubanks, And then there's an interesting first round matchup. Tsitsipas playing Raonic, and
Yeah.
Tsitsipas is also on, in Djokovic's path to get to the quarterfinals as well. And then Tiafo definitely has been playing well. And I didn't realize even Korda is there, Sebi Korda is there, um, but then let's see what happens there. Um, I definitely, like I said, to me, um, I would say Djokovic is clearly the pick, and I think Tiafo and Fritz, you can't go wrong with that. And I'm just going to throw in Tsitsipas there
Okay.
um, on that half, and then on the other half, which would be Alcaraz. Alcaraz does have. I think he could actually play Zverev much earlier too. I think that's a tough break for him. I mean, Zverev has actually been
Yeah.
playing well. Obviously, we already talked Medvedev. I did just hear, even though Nishikori seems to be, I think he withdrew from the U.S. Open,
Hmm.
and he was the previous U.S. Open finalist. I need to check with our stats guy, but I'm pretty sure that he did. And then I did want to call one more thing. Isner, this could be his last major, and definitely one I really enjoyed watching Isner. Never came to the success that he was capable of, but
Right.
that's one thing to call out. And then Hercags, and that's the person I'm actually picking as a sleeper pick to get to the. Let's do the sleeper pick to get to the quarterfinals because
Okay.
I don't think he has a chance to win it. But of course, Rude on is also on the Alcaraz half, so I definitely think it's going to be Rude, Alcaraz. Um, I would say Tsitsipas. Um, and I think I'm missing one more. I think Rune maybe. Um, that
For
could
the
be the case.
for the semifinals, you're trying to
Yeah,
project now.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you got Rude. It could be Rude and Djokovic. So they're on the same side of the draw. Rude, Djokovic, and then I think Tsitsipas is on the Djokovic
You're on the
quarterfinal. Djokovic could play Tsitsipas in the
yes.
quarterfinal.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, you're right.
yeah, I think I have Tsitsipas losing to Eubanks in the third round in an upset. I just feel like at this U.S. Open, the Americans always make some noise. The crowd gets behind them. If it's a nighttime match, crowd gets really on their side. That's such a factor. It's the kind of the 12th man they call it in football effect. So yeah, I got Wolf maybe making some noise. Tiafo, Eubanks, all the Americans that have shown some real ability and talent this year. I think maybe they'll hopefully make some noise and get through to maybe the fourth round. We'll see.
Yeah. So you who are your quarterfinals right now? What do you think? I mean,
Yeah, so I mean, I see Alcaraz coming out of his quarter against Sinner, and I said Medvedev beating Kechanov in that quarter, so that would be an Alcaraz Medvedev semifinal. I think they've met. Alcaraz Medvedev. Once again we have to check with our statistician. I'm sure they've met a few times in matches. I'm not sure who's
yeah.
come out top so far. So yeah, so Alcaraz Medvedev in one semi, and then on the other quarters I have Tiafo and Rune, and I actually picked Tiafo over Rune. I just feel like he's going to get pumped again. The crowd's going to get behind him. I see him making a run potentially. And then Fritz against Djokovic. I see Djokovic in straight sets. They're easy. So that sets up a Djokovic Tiafo semi and a Medvedev Alcaraz semi. When I have Alcaraz and
Okay.
Djokovic both getting back to the finals, I don't think anyone's in the right mind's
I
going to pick against him.
I think I might go the other way. I think it would be I would go with Alcaraz, and I'm thinking could be is Rude on the same side of Alcaraz? I don't think so, right?
No, no, that's the other. That's the
So
other.
so I would say Djokovic and Rude. That would be my semis, and then
Okay.
Medvedev and Alcaraz.
Okay, yeah, that could be it. Yeah, Djokovic and Rude, that could be a potential matchup. Last year, I think Rude was in the semifinal
Yes, he was.
against. I want to
No,
say
Rude was in the semifinals. I think he lost the finals to Alcaraz, obviously, but I think um,
that's right. Yes,
Rude. We should go back and I think was it against
I think Rude beat
Iapo?
Kachanov in the semifinals last year, right?
Kachanov in the semifinals, and Alcaraz beat
Yeah, in the 5-set thriller. Correct.
exactly. Right, right. So it could be a good return for Rude. Rude has been knocking on the doors, like we both talked about. He was in the French Open final, right?
Yeah.
So he's definitely knocking on the doors, and he did make a comment today saying while he enjoys seeing Alcaraz and Djokovic in the final, he definitely wants to play spoil sport. And I don't blame him. Young guy, very level headed. He's got the game. But I do like the Sinner. Sinner seems to be someone, I almost wanted to pick Sinner. And I think I did see on the ESPN, most people do pick Djokovic to win. But Sinner has been someone that maybe I think one or two people did pick Sinner to win it all
Yep.
because he doesn't have any weaknesses in his game like Alcaraz. He has been playing well.
Yeah.
I believe he did win the Canadian Open. This was just less than a month ago. So he's primed for maybe 2 weeks ago. He's primed to make a run at the U.S. Open, and he did. Like he almost beat Alcaraz in the 5-setter last year, which you're
Yep.
watching right now. So I think let's pick the finalists now. I think are we
Yeah.
looking for a Djokovic Alcaraz final again?
Yeah, I see a Djokovic Alcaraz final. I think Djokovic is going to get number 24 with this one. I really do. I think he's he's played Alcaraz. We've seen it a few times now over the last few months. But Wimbledon, and they met again in that thriller last week at what do you call it? I'm sorry, at
Cincinnati.
It's at the Western and Southern Open. Yeah, they met in the final in that three set thriller that we discussed a little bit, and it was just an incredible match. And Djokovic, that was, like you said, one of in his press conference interview after the match, he said that's one of his greatest wins. Just the way he had to deal with adversity and the heat stroke and overcome a lot of different factors, and then to just kind of I think I don't think he had any match points against. I know he had a few match points that Alcaraz, he fought off a few, but but Djokovic prevailed in that thriller of a match, and I see him just kind of. He's the more experienced. Obviously, he's more experienced guy. He's like 37 years old. He's got 21 more Grand Slam victories than Alcaraz. And I just feel like the more he plays Alcaraz, the kind of more he kind of gains insight into kind of how to beat him and how to wear him down. Although, I mean, it's even though you know how to beat him, you still got to do it. And Alcaraz is just so tough. But so my pick is Djokovic.
Okay. All right. And I'll go the other way. I'll pick Alcaraz. It will be Alcaraz number 3 for Alcaraz. He did win the U.S. Open. He could go to a back-to-back U.S. Open champion. But although one thing that did concern me about Alcaraz, he did play 3-setter pretty much every match in the Cincinnati Open, including the final against Djokovic, which was probably the greatest match I've ever seen in a long, long time in a non-major. Right. So I think you're going with Djokovic. I'm going with Alcaraz. And then I think we did talk about the sleeper pick. I'm going with Hurkacz to get to the semifinal, but not, at least make a little more run there. He did play well. He should have beaten Alcaraz in the Cincinnati Open. So I'm kind of giving him the edge there. And then who's your sleeper?
I have to go with one. I'm just gonna pick. I'm gonna go with an American. I'm gonna take I'll take 2 Americans, Eubanks and Tommy Paul, just to kind of make some noise. And I don't know if they'll really get through to the final or something, but Tommy Paul's played against a couple of matches recently against Alcaraz. I think
yes.
And then also maybe in Toronto, I think in the Canadian tournament, I believe as well. Right. So. And he beat him up there. So, so I would say either Tommy Paul or maybe just you're going with the hot hand from Wimbledon, Chris Eubanks. Those are my 2 sleepers, Paul and Eubanks.
Yeah, and Tommy Paul was actually, named in a couple of things of making a deep run. So I think can't go wrong with that. So we are, and let's see. This is the last major. 24 or 3. Those are the 2 numbers. But I will throw one more stat at you before we wrap up. Yeah. If you take away the matches that Djokovic and Alcaraz played against each other, I think between them, they're 120 and 15, I think, in the last year or so. Incredible.
Wow.
So that is pretty amazing in itself. So let's see if it is 24 or 3, like we talked about, back-to-back for Alcaraz. And may the best player win. So with that, we will wrap it up. And then, Dan, thank you again for, I think this is our preview that we have done, and let's see if this breaks the record in our podcast series.
Yeah, let's hope for that, and maybe we'll get back together next week, do a little recap after the first week, and enjoy. I know you're going to be in New York the next couple of days. I hope you get a chance to maybe sneak away at night and go attend the Open. We'll be at the semifinals, I know, live in person with a few of our friends in a couple of weeks. That's always one of my favorite days of the year. Can't wait to do that. So a lot to look forward to the next few weeks with tennis.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Have a good night.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.